Okay, today I'm going to be changing out my CPU Waterblock, and I thought I would take the time now to show you how I do it. So I put some items here together that I normally get ready before I do anything water cooling. You know, I've been doing water cooling for quite a while, so I take a lot of this for granted that people know. And I'm sure there's people out there watching my video that have never dealt with water cooling, maybe thinking about it. So I'm going to show you what I put together, and then if you like my ideas, you can use it on your own. Okay, the first thing I got is, of course, the item I'm going to install, which this is the Koolance CPU-360 CPU Waterblock. So here it is, and all the items are in the box and with the directions, everything, and we'll get to mounting later. I also have what I have left of my coolant. I'm using the nano fluid red coolant. Now the coolant that I use is non-conductive. So that means if I do spill some on electrical components, I don't have to worry about it shorting out. It's still not a good idea because sometimes there's some capacitance there, but there is no conductivity. Now most coolants out there are conductive, so if you do spring a leak or you have a whoops, you know, you can short something out and ruin something, so you need to be careful to make sure if you do have a spill, make sure things fully dry and you wipe it up, all the residue, before you put power to it. With this type of coolant, you don't have to worry about that as much, but it is expensive. I think it was $45 for just this one bottle here. And it took 3 bottles for my coolant system. Well, 2 bottles and what I have left here. Tubing. I'll tell you a story about tubing. A few years ago when I first got involved in water cooling, I bought like 4 feet of tubing for my, I think it was my second water cooling build. And so I kind of measured out in my mind how much tubing I needed. Well, I got it home, started installing it, and I realized it was about 6 inches short of the amount of tubing that I needed. And you know what, I could not put power to my computer that weekend. I had to wait almost 5 days for the weekend to go by and to get tubing back in to finish the build. So since that time, I order almost double the amount of tubing I think I'll need. Heck, it's only like $1.50 per foot or whatever it is. So I'd rather pay the extra $10 or so, or not even that much, the extra $5, and make sure I have enough. So as you can see, this is the amount of tubing I had left from my current build. And I have quite a bit of it left because I wasn't going to make another mistake like that. So make sure you have plenty of tubing. Soft soap. Someone will say, what the heck you got soft soap? Well, I'll tell you what. I don't want to break something when I'm putting tubing on the fittings. What you'll find out is the tubing fits the fittings perfectly because you don't want to leak. So there's 2 ways you can get the fitting or the tubing over the fittings easily. One way is to boil water, and then you stick the end of it in the boiling water, and when it's malleable, then that's when you slide it over the fitting. That's a fine way. I've done it that way before. But what I think is easier is to use a little bit of soap. What you do is you just put just a little bit on your finger, and you wipe it around the fitting, and then this will slide right on it. And you don't have to worry about getting soap in your system. I mean, unless you just be pumping it and smearing it everywhere, you're not going to get it into your system. I've never had soap in my system when I've used it. So I always use just a little bit of soft soap. Okay, a cup. What's the cup for? Well, when you have expensive fluid, you want to capture most of it. You don't want to lose it. So I have a cup for that. And that's also in case, you know, today you'll see where I use it when I drain my loop. I have some quick disconnect fittings, which I'll show you, which actually pay for themselves. But I still have some, and I don't want to lose it. Okay, I have vice grips here. Vice grips I won't probably be using today because I have quick disconnects, and I don't have to worry about draining the whole system. But you can use this to go ahead and clamp down tubing if you're going to cut it or something, and it won't leak out. I have channel locks here. Now, you might think the channel locks are for fittings, to tighten fittings down. That is not the case. Most fittings out there have gaskets in them, and you only hand tighten them. I had a buddy that tried to use channel locks to tighten down his fittings. He ended up stripping them out. All you do is hand tighten. You'll see that today. Just hand tight fittings, the gasket gets it. You don't have to worry about any leakage. The main thing you got to worry about with just hand tightening is when you wrap the tubing and the tubing turns, it could unscrew your fitting, so you need to watch that. What I do use channel locks for is for tube clamps. I know they make compression fittings. Compression fittings, honestly, they look better, but they're not my favorite to use. I like tube clamps, but I mean, you can use both. But And sometimes you can use these to tighten down compression fittings too, but like I said, I don't use many compression fittings. Then I have shears. I use the shears to cut the tubing. They're long enough where I can about cut it in one swat. Of course, there's better items to use to cut tubing, like tube cutters, but I don't have that, so I use these shears. They work fine. And then I have an assortment of towels here, where usually I put towels down for insurance, like if I'm breaking a line on top of something electrical, I'll put those down just in case, because they'll soap it up, or they'll sop it up, and you don't have to worry about getting components wet. And this is also in case you spill some on the floor. You're right there, and you can wipe it up, or you can put it underneath. So those are the tools that I'm going to be using. Here I got it laid down flat. And something else I'd like for those of you that build computers or have trouble building computers, what I like to do is, see, I have a beach towel right here, and I lay it down. And what that allows me to do is, with the computer on the table, see how I can move the computer anywhere I want. And that may sound like something small, but when you're trying to work in a tight space or trying to get something and reach something, if you're able to move this computer to anywhere you want to get to it, makes it very helpful. And what else it does is, your computer doesn't get scratched, your table doesn't get scratched. Even if you're on the carpet, I think having a towel down is better than, because the towel never always stays with the computer. It only moves on the surface of the table. Now when it's standing up, it's the same thing. If I can stand this up, and if I would stand it up, then I can move it just like I showed you here. Watch. So I can stand this up just like so, and see, I can move it to the edge where I can get to it, or I can turn it around. And when I'm doing wiring, I can turn this computer all the way around to get to the back side to worry about wiring. I don't have to get up and get around on the other side of the table. So I think having a beach towel underneath it is the best way to do it. That's just my opinion.